and pushing for this new prosperity.
So what are British Columbians saying?
Resource sector is what keeps BC's economy going.
Does BC benefit from a growing resource economy?
It's a simple answer, yes.
Say yes to jobs and yes to BC.
I saw the strangest headline this morning. Brian Gallant clarifies Justin Trudeau's Energy East pipeline comments. That's the headline in the CBC. That's weird. Brian Gallant is the new Liberal Premier of New Brunswick. Justin Trudeau is the Liberal leader federally. So how can Gallant explain what Trudeau meant to say? Isn't that something that only Trudeau could do? Here's what the fuss is about. Energy East, it's the name of a proposed $12 billion pipeline project that would take oil from Alberta to St. John, New Brunswick, where Canada's largest oil refinery is located. It's important to Alberta to export oil, but it's actually much more important to New Brunswick. See, Alberta is already doing pretty well. Low unemployment, high incomes, lots of six-figure jobs. It needs to get its oil out. Right now it's moving a lot by rail, but Energy East isn't a make or break deal for Alberta. It's important. It's not a Hail Mary pass to save the province, though, but it is for New Brunswick. New Brunswick's unemployment rate is 9.6%. It's actually getting worse these days. More than a third of all its government revenues are transfers from the other provinces. Young people are leaving en masse. Frankly, many of them are going to work in Alberta or BC or Saskatchewan, just anywhere else. Of course they are. Alberta's unemployment rate is 4.5%. Saskatchewan's is 3.4%. New Brunswick's unemployment rate is nearly triple that of Saskatchewan. Just think about that for a moment. So this Energy East pipeline, it's huge. First of all, there's the construction of the thing. Like I say, $12 billion for this project. Obviously not all of that spent in New Brunswick, but most of it is in Eastern Canada. But to take all that oil and refine it and ship it and export it, that's a whole industry. As in, it's more than a one-time construction project. That would change New Brunswick for decades. That would bring a lot of those six-figure jobs back to St. John, so St. Johners can work at home in New Brunswick instead of going to Alberta. Don't take it from me. Take it from Brian Gallant himself, the new Liberal Premier. Here he is, making Energy East a centerpiece of his provincial election campaign not 3 months ago.
This is a tremendous opportunity for a nation-building project and a lasting partnership between New Brunswick and Alberta. This will help our country diversify its export markets for the oil industry. This will also have the added benefit of being safer than making sure that we have oil go by rail across our country. While proposed pipeline projects have met opposition in other jurisdictions, here in New Brunswick we have embraced this opportunity. A lot of the focus of this project has been on the benefits during construction. These are real and will provide a sustained boost to our economy. But the Liberal Party wants to ensure this project has a lasting impact. Once the pipe is in the ground, we can build on Energy East for even greater job creation in the future. A Liberal government will leverage Energy East to grow the petroleum sector here in New Brunswick. If elected, we will build on the goodwill and new relationships we have established with the petroleum sector in Alberta. I can promise that I will be a tireless promoter of the countless opportunities for investment that exist here in New Brunswick.
So there you have it. Energy East, the central campaign promise of the New Brunswick Liberals. And Justin Trudeau campaigned in Gallant's election. He supported him, or so it seemed. But look, New Brunswick has just 10 seats in the federal parliament. Some of those are going to go Conservative no matter what. So let's say maybe 5 seats in New Brunswick are in play for Trudeau. I don't know exactly. Quebec, on the other hand, has 75 seats, and they're getting a new one. And Quebec has made despising oil and gas their new political identity. Sorry, let me clarify that. Quebec loves its oil, conflict oil, that it imports from OPEC tankers. It hates Alberta oil. Sorry, let me clarify that. It hates the oil itself, but it loves taking transfer payments from Alberta that come from that oil money. Quebec has put a moratorium on gas fracking in their own province. They have massive fines for anyone who would try to frack. They've called for carbon taxes on Alberta. They love rhetorically bashing oil and gas just for the fun of it. So Justin Trudeau has a choice to make here. Does he side with Brian Gallant and keep the promise of that provincial campaign to support the Energy East pipeline? It's not just a Liberal promise, mind you. All 3 parties in the New Brunswick legislature earlier this year voted in favor of the Energy East pipeline. So it's not even about supporting Gallant or the Liberals. It's about supporting New Brunswick and their last best economic chance. Does Trudeau support New Brunswick's economic future? Or does he put Quebec's latest temper tantrum, their hatred for Alberta oil, first? What do you think? I mean, he's a Trudeau. His father brought in the National Energy Program that nearly destroyed the Alberta oil industry. We know that Trudeau is a Quebec supremacist.
Quebecers are better than the rest of Canada because, we're Quebecers or whatever.
Yeah, or whatever. So who do you think Trudeau's going to go with? Quebec and its 75 seats and his father's legacy of attacking Alberta? Or with desperate New Brunswick and the maybe 5 seats the Liberals can win there? Yeah, not a lot of suspense in that question, is there? Here's what Trudeau said, in French, of course, in a Quebec newspaper, La Presse, of course, just the other day. Here's a translation, I'll read it. The project, Energy East, has not yet reached the level of acceptability for it to pass. I hope they will develop a way to reassure and demonstrate that it would do so responsibly. They are not there yet, far from it. Really? But the entire project was only officially filed with the government on October 30th. What on earth is Trudeau talking about? They haven't shown they can build a pipeline responsibly? What on earth is Trudeau alleging? That they are rogues or criminals or don't know how to engineer things? They don't know how to do pipelines? That's what they do for a living. What does he even mean? Before this project was even filed in October, Energy East consulted more than 7,000 individuals along the route, including 5,500 landowners, 158 First Nations and Métis communities in 6 provinces. Their application is 70 printed binders worth of material. Besides engineers and actual workers, they've hired ecologists and archaeologists and anyone you could possibly imagine to make sure the pipeline will be as socially and historically and environmentally and aboriginally acceptable as possible. And Trudeau, just to smash at oil, just to pander for votes in Quebec, just announces that the pipeline isn't responsible enough? But what happened between his campaigning in New Brunswick in September and this statement by him just last week? Does he think we don't follow what he says in different cities or different languages? Listen to Trudeau here. Promise that he'll say the same thing in each region. What a lie.
We need not just a different government in Ottawa. We need a better government in Ottawa. A government and a team that focuses on real issues, that commits itself to working hard every single day for Canadians and for a better future for us all. And a party and individuals that make a virtue and a point out of saying exactly the same thing in whatever part of the country we happen to be in. We have the same message in Alberta as we've had here in downtown Toronto.
Oh, is that a fact? The same message in every part of the country, eh? It's just not true, though he says it all the time. Look at this.
We will not ignore science or shy away from tough, urgent issues like carbon pricing. Nor will we succumb to easy politics by demonizing one sector of the economy or region of the country. A Liberal Party led by me would never use Western resources to buy Eastern votes.
Yeah, except in Quebec, am I right? For God's sakes, the Liberal Premier of New Brunswick is now forced to go to the media to clarify what Trudeau meant. But you see, it doesn't work that way. You can't have one person desperately clarifying what another person said. Gallant can't clarify what Trudeau said. Only Trudeau can clarify what Trudeau said. But it seems pretty clear to me. Brian Gallant and New Brunswick are small potatoes to Trudeau. He's taking them for granted, as Liberals always take Atlantic Canada for granted. Shut your mouth. Know your place, New Brunswick. The Liberals need to win big in Quebec to have a chance at beating the Conservatives. So Harper has made New Brunswick's economy, so Trudeau has made New Brunswick's economy and Energy East a sacrifice zone for Trudeau's political ambitions. Listen, if you want to really know what Justin Trudeau thinks about oil and gas pipelines, don't ask him. He'll tell you a different thing depending on what city he's in. Look to what his father, Pierre Trudeau, did. Look to his father's despise for oil and gas in Western Canada. This week, Justin Trudeau announced what he called a panel of economic advisors, included some big names like the former Premier of New Brunswick, Frank McKenna, who's been a major champion of Energy East since the beginning. It also includes George Gosby, a senior oil and gas financier from Alberta. What do they say about Energy East? No need to guess. Here's Frank McKenna.
What do you think is holding it up right now, or is it being held up?
No, I don't think it's being held up at all. It's going through some normal hitches, and there's a bit of a fight en famille between the LDCs and the carrier that I think I'd like to see taken off the 4-lane highway and moved into a parking lot to be settled, quite frankly, through arbitration or through some private mechanism. I don't know what, but I think that the pipeline makes a lot of sense, which is why I'm quite confident about it. First of all, it's very good for Western Canada. But it's also very good for central Canada. It feeds a number of refineries en route, which is unlike almost every other pipeline that's being proposed. There's 680,000 barrels of imported oil coming in to eastern Canada from some pretty dodgy places around the world and at Brent prices. So there's been a big arbitrage on prices that's been to our disadvantage. So you end up refineries that may have been marginal now will have access to competitive prices. That's a good thing. You're actually moving oil in a pipeline that will be used in Canada. That's a good thing. And it gets to tidal water in St. John, New Brunswick, in a port that handles 400 tankers a year. The biggest tankers in the world can go there year-round, ice-free port. And you're 6 or 7 sailing days closer to India, closer to Europe, and closer to the Gulf. So I think for a lot of reasons it makes a lot of sense, and I think sanity will prevail.
That's Frank McKenna. He's one of Trudeau's new economic advisors. What does Frank McKenna think of Trudeau denouncing the pipeline as irresponsible mere weeks after the application has even been filed? But also look to Justin Trudeau's chief policy strategist today, Gerald Butts, the former president of the extremist World Wildlife Fund, a foreign-funded anti-oil sands lobby. Here's a clip of Gerald Butts a couple years ago talking about pipelines, in this case the Northern Gateway pipeline, but listen to what he says.
Truth be told, we don't think there ought to be a carbon-based energy industry by the middle of this century. That's our policy in Canada, and it's our policy all over the world. The real alternative is not an alternative route, it's an alternative economy.
Does that look like a man who's interested in an oil and gas company coming up with a better plan or a better compromise or a better pipeline? No, it's not. Gerald Butts, who's the chief policy advisor to Trudeau, doesn't believe in oil pipelines at all. He believes in, you heard him, an alternative economy. And for New Brunswick, that alternative is pretty simple. It's to remain poor with 10% unemployment and young people fleeing every year. How does that square with Trudeau's campaign promises out there? How does that square with his promise to say the same thing in different cities? Well, Trudeau's a Liberal. It's not about principle. It's about winning. And it's about the Liberals taking New Brunswick for granted, just like Pierre Trudeau always did. More stories still ahead.